Well, again, Mark Dempsey with Appalachian Power AEP. And real quickly, I can't say that I disagree with a thing I've heard here today, but a couple of thoughts I want to add to that is my company, AEP, has been the largest purchaser of coal in the United States for many years now. And with that said, those coal companies we buy coal from have also been some of our largest customers. So we have a real dilemma when we look at these rules in that they're an impact on us two ways, both individually as well as our customers. I will also say that there's no company or entity in this room that has spent more time, money, or effort to try to beneficially impact these regulations that are coming out of Washington to impact the continued use and enjoyment of coal as a resource in our country. No one anywhere in the United States has spent more, let me repeat, no entity, no company has spent more time, money, or resources trying to impact these regulations. None of us has a crystal ball of where we're going, but Chris had mentioned, and we talked earlier about some of the plant closings that occurred just this past weekend. Three of the plants with the multiple units are ours. The others were closed earlier that were First Energy units. Those were closed because of the MATS rule, the mercury and air toxics rule that was been in place since 2011. We announced the closing of those plants. And what I can assure you, and regardless of what happens, frankly, I would tell you that we don't envy being placed in the spot of being the pinch point on this issue, but I can assure you of one thing that will not happen as outcome of whatever goes forward on these MATS rule is we will not violate federal regulation or statute. We will not be fined for a willful violation of regulation or statutes, and none of our officers are going to face the criminal penalties that can be applied to them for the violation of those regulations or statutes. So that's not going to happen. Regardless of what comes out of it, that is not going to happen. I can't assure you of that. And with that said, I would ask you to consider not to put us at that pinch point in whatever policy direction you want to head with this thing. Again, we have been so closely wedded with coal all of our history, and will continue to be for. And when this Clean Power Plan came that the General just spoke about, from the industry side, we will be at least one of the leaders in the pushback legally on that as well.
Yeah, let Raj go. He's always good. I hate to get on the phone.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here today, Chris. And you know, they say you save the best for last. So if you look at your programs, you'll see Chris as boss. Bill Raney's name on the bottom. So they're saving the best for last. I'm Roger Horton from West Virginia. I'm proud to say that. I'm an American, a West Virginian, a coal miner, and I'm retired. How many of you in here are retired today? You know what? I've been retired for the past 2 years, and I've been getting it almost every day to try and save the industry that I love so much. And we're going to do it. We absolutely are going to do it. I don't care, come hell or high water, we're going to fight till the bitter end. There's got to be some sensible solution to the nonsense that is being driven down our throats. And somebody will crack that at one point and we'll drive it home. I've seen a lot of people try and yet to do it, but we're going to keep pushing until we do. There's not anything more important today than leaving here with, than the sense of urgency, than you becoming more deeply involved. You have to be more deeply involved now than you were last year or the year before that. The year that John F. Kennedy was assassinated, I was in the 3rd grade. I remember all through grade school the highs and the lows of the coal industry my father experienced. I remember the junior high and the high school years, the highs and the lows. I remember all those things. But we always knew that sooner or later that the market would rebound, and it did. But never in the history of this nation, not since Prohibition, has the government tried to destroy an industry. And that's exactly what they're doing now, and I find that unacceptable. and I pledge my heart and soul to see this righted one way or the other. Don't have much more to say than that because I'm kind of plain spoken. I got a job to do, a fight to fight, and go win. And that's pretty much the long and short of it, and I thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Chris. And I understand Tuck's on a little sabbatical, but for the Coal Forum and Joel and everybody, I appreciate that. Appreciate being here with Mark and Roger. You know, I don't have to tell you all how bad things are, but I'm going to show you a couple slides here if I can get this baby to work. Oh, good Lord, it does move quick, doesn't it? Let's see. Wait a minute. There we go. I don't know if you can see that. That gives you an idea of the 3-year snapshot and quantifies where we are, what we've been talking about. If you compare those three, if you go all the way back to 2008, we've lost 40 million tons of production in West Virginia. In these 3 years, we've lost 10 million tons. We've lost 30% of the mines in West Virginia, 71 in this 3-year period. If you go back, we've lost 90 mines since 2008. 34% of the underground mines, 30% of the surface mines. As Chris said earlier, there's somewhere between 6,000 and 7,000 miners that are direct, depending upon whether you count those on WARN notice or whether they're actually laid off. When you look at those numbers, you can see that you compare 14 to the previous years, and there's less in terms of production value, which becomes a function of cost or what we're getting for the coal. And it still amounts to about the same contribution to the state. So what do we do about all that? And you've heard great things, and as Chris has said and has been amplified by everybody, we couldn't have a more solid support from the leadership of the state and the legislature and Congress. The trouble is we got 5 electoral votes, we got 5 representatives in Congress, and we're kind of like an island, so it takes getting everybody else together. And I think, as Dr. Christie said, they need to get to the veto proof. We're just interested in getting to where they don't have cloture, and we think we can do that, and as Chris talked about, is forming a coalition with these other states. I don't know if I can get this baby to work this way or not. Let's see. Here's what the other slide I wanted to show you, and things I feel like, and you've heard some of this today. It's like Chris said, it's survival, it's the needs, and it's no sip. It's with working this thing out with Mark and the state and trying to figure out how do we best leverage ourselves against EPA, who is absolutely a bully in this whole process. The legislature wants a part of it, and everybody wants to be involved in this, but we don't want to give up, and we don't want to victimize ourselves any more than we have. The challenges that Attorney General talked about, 32 states, as you heard Shelley talk about that, and 28 AGs in the suit. The arena bill, Capitol and Manchin been huge in that. We've got to get everybody, if you're talking to people in other states, then encourage them to make sure their senators support the arena bill. And I understand there's going to be hearings on that in the next couple of weeks. And these are small steps, and it seems like you're trying to move a battleship in a mud hole, but I'm telling you, everything helps because EPA does everything through executive order. An energy plan, we'd love to have one, but it needs to be regionally based, and the strengths that we have in the East are different than what they have in the West. But it needs, as Jeff said, America has more coal than any other country in this world. And you would think that everybody would want to be pulling on the wagon to try to make us as secure and independent energy-wise using the most prolific resource that we have, and instead of downgrading it, degrading it, and trying to get rid of it. Level the playing field. If you got subsidies to gas, if you got less permits to gas, if you got subsidies to air, or to wind, and to solar, then give coal subsidies. Take all the subsidies away, but don't act like this field is level, because it's not level, folks, I'm telling you. And everybody in this room knows what it takes to get an operating permit for a coal mine, and Mark knows what it takes to put a power plant in business. And I'll tell you, it's a damn bit different than what it takes to put a gas well in, and it's a whole lot different what it takes to put a windmill up. And so let's make this field level and quit acting like it's something. And the little things are killing us, the things that we don't want to talk about in this global sense. But some of them mentioned the waters of the United States. It's a rule. Endangered species, we're dealing with two of them right now, the long-eared bat and this crayfish down in Mingo County. And it just makes it more and more complicated and more costly. And we're out of step here, as you heard everybody talk about today, and we've got to do everything we can to get West Virginia back in step so we can compete. And lastly, this one is going to change. It needs to be a change. And I've spent my entire life, my career anyway, 40 years or whatever you call it, having a job with the state. And economic development has always concentrated on chasing the industries that they want to locate here in West Virginia with the premise that they're going to mine West Virginia coal because it's here and we don't have to promote or do anything to try to encourage people to come here to mine coal. Folks, we got 26 states in this nation that mine coal today. And it takes every bit of the energy that goes out here to encourage a manufacturing plant to locate in West Virginia. We ought to be doing that with the coal mining industry, and we ought to be here at home trying to figure out how we can provide whatever it is that they need to encourage that company that's mining coal in one of those other 25 states to come here and mine our coal, because we've got a ready workforce. We got the best coal miners in the world, and we have the best coal in the world. They need to really pay attention to that and refocus and try to get on that, because when you look at the economic nucleus that a coal mine brings, it's every bit as significant as a manufacturing facility. And there's not a bit of difference in one of Mark's power plants than a cracker plant. As a matter of fact, I think it's more substantial to have an electric power plant that burns coal. Don't know that we can ever get one, but we damn sure not write it off. We ought to think about what we can do as a state to get them located here. We're on the grid. We're within a half a day's drive to almost 50% of the civilization of this country. So that needs to be refocused. I'm proud to represent the industry. It's a sad time, but and it's different. It's different, like Roger said. It's different than it has been before. But you know, we're going to hopefully be resilient and have 37% of the electric generation in this country, maintain that, and if everybody is telling the truth, then they just soon run a coal plant as they would a gas plant, then we hope that's going to be the case. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Are there questions for our panelists, our leaders?
Too late.
You know, one of the things that we struggle with constantly, as you know, our electric rates, everybody in here knows they've gone up fairly drastically since 2008 or so. Almost all of that related to environmental regulation compliance one way or another. It's either directly the environmental regulations on us or what happened to the price of coal in the mid 2006, 7, 8 area there. When you had so much demand for coal and you couldn't get a permit to open a new mine if you had to. Those are what caused that. But no, I don't think the average person does connect the dots. Usually what happens to us is that the EPA enacts a regulation, the impact of which doesn't really show up on your electric bill for 6, 7, 8, maybe even 10 years, and then it's our fault. And it's very, very difficult to argue that it isn't. You know, and we certainly understand. And one thing I want to make sure that everybody understands, you know, we certainly are sensitive to what has happened, the impact of electric bills on Grandma and all of us as individuals. But make no mistake about it, the first place this shows up as devastating is your big industries, the big energy-intensive industries. I mean, we've talked regularly since 2009 when Century closed down on how we can help them restart, bring those jobs back up here in Jackson County, and it's because of what happened with their electric rates where they're at right now, and it's very tough to overcome that. But anybody tells you I heard some of our executives, and this has been several months ago, were in D.C. to testify before Congress. This before Henry Waxman retired, but before his committee to testify about the impact of these regulations. And Waxman named us by name, said, you AEP guys come up here every session and gripe about what these environmental regulations are doing to the cost of energy, and we don't see where anything's happened. Have you seen where anything's happened, Bill? How many coal mines you got closed with no jobs? How many centuries are there out there? We know there's one at Ravenswood and one on the other side of the Ohio River up across from Moundsville that closed, basically because of the impact of these things. So it is, and I hate to prolong this, we had to, and I think Bill did too, the opportunity, Bill and Chris here recently, not too long ago, to meet with the Assistant Secretary of Fossil Fuel from DOE. And I will tell you, they don't connect the dots. They think they're dealing with a handful of coal miner jobs, and they see that as an acceptable loss. They don't understand that in our neck of the woods that the coal companies are also who hires the engineers, who also buy tires, who also buy equipment. I bet we got equipment dealers or manufacturers in here. They don't understand that that's who can afford to pay their medical bill or pay their dental bill or go to the grocery store and buy groceries without government assistance. They don't understand. They don't get it. Enough of my preaching.
Let me just say, I want to compliment Roger too, because I'm telling you, he said he retired 2 years ago, and he has absolutely been busy. He's got Citizens for Coal, he's got United for Coal. He's doing all this. He's doing it on his own, and he's building it from the ground up. And something that he's just commented on, and something that started in the Ohio Valley, and it was mentioned in reference today, and I think Chris started it, and others have mentioned it. But you've got these gas plants, and we don't have any problem with gas. We don't like it when they take our business, so there's no sense acting like we like that. And this gas plant's going to come in, and it's going to have some kind of stipend from the county to build, and it's going to have 30 jobs. And then when you go back and you do the math going backwards as to how much coal is being displaced as a result of these megawatts that are going to be made in lieu of the plant that is closing, then you're trading 30 jobs for about 2,000, as I recall. And you start weighing that out, and that's what I'm talking about, the field being level. We need to quit acting like the field's level, because it isn't anywhere near level, and we got to do something to make sure that that's the way. And you're right, it aggravates the hell out of me that they've spent 8 years putting us out of business, and then they do all this big program, and they're going to send money to Logan and Mingo County to give it to people that are out of work, to retrain them to do stuff that they don't want to do. And the whole damn thing's upside down. But and I know y'all know that. It's just that we need to all pull together and make sure that we got that wagon going in the right direction. So I appreciate you, Roger. I do.
It's a very real threat. We have a plant being built in Marshall County. There's another one proposed, gas plant. There's another one proposed for Brooke County, right across from the Cardinal Tire facility. There's another one being discussed in Clarksburg, put right next to the Harrison Tire Station.
In reference to the power plant that's being built here in West Virginia, the gas power plant, the Ohio Valley Jobs Alliance, if you're not familiar with it, you need to familiarize yourself with it. The president of that Jobs Alliance submitted a letter today to the backers and those people who were throwing the money from New York to get this power plant built. They wanted to know in the letter, basically, if we're the ones who are supporting this, we're giving you the tax breaks, and then you're causing us to lose about 2,000 jobs, you're going to have to justify this. How can you justify it? And there is no justification for it, none whatsoever. We're not opposed to competition. That's what the American spirit is all about, is competition. The whole American economy is based on competition. You build a better mousetrap. I've got no problem with that. But you don't set up a system where everybody loses, and that's exactly what this is. Thank you again.
Well, I would, excuse me, going back, we're talking about a residential rate here. That's something everybody can relate to. Appalachian Power has gone from about 5.5 cents a kilowatt hour in the 2005 timeframe to, after this most recent rate increase, I think we're going to be about 10.2 cents a kilowatt hour. It is kind of hard to explain. Our same customers who use the same electron provided by the same employees in Virginia are about at 11.2 cents a kilowatt hour.
Have you ever thought of putting in your bill, what percentage is due to, environmental regulations?
Well, this won't surprise you, but what goes in our bill is also regulated. Yeah, we have those discussions from time to time. Yes, frankly, our bill is already so complicated. We're working on trying to simplify it, but I think there would be benefit for us communicating more often and better, what those impacts are, because we realize, the average person out here, all of us are in the industry, so we focus on these things. The average person out there just wants to be left alone. They want to go about what they do day to day. They want to raise their kids, go to church, and not have to worry about this stuff. And it's kind of a real stretch to expect them to understand all the things that are going in to impact this right now. So we're just going to have to find better ways to communicate it.
I think outside the coal country, talking about lost coal jobs doesn't go very far. As someone said,
Well, it really goes further than that. The coal producing states, it's one thing, as Bill said, it's where things are probably most devastating. But going back to the map, I think Jeff showed it earlier in one of the slide presentations. At least there was a map of the 32 or so states that have filed comments opposing the Clean Power Plan. If you think back to what that map looked, it sort of looked like the electoral map that came out. All those states in the blue states may not be coal-producing states, but they're coal-using states. There's about 32 states that depend on coal for more than half their power. So there is going to be impacts there. Our problem is the left coast and the right coast, or at least the northeast part of the right coast, where all the population is. They don't see it and they don't get it, and apparently they're rich enough not to care.
Other questions? Yes, sir.
Why don't we see TV campaigns or just marketing campaigns that tells the American population of what it is, what the actual numbers are? That's a increase.
You want to go, Bill, or you want me to?
Hey, we don't have the money. That's a big part of it. I mean, that's,
Well,
if we had somebody like Bloomberg that gave us $25 million, then, NMA could do that, or somebody at the national level. ACE has tried it in a place or two. But I think it's kind of like, Mark, think about it. And I don't know how you do this, but how you get people to care about their power bill, but you can talk till you're blue in the face about the power bill, and it just doesn't seem to get any traction. I mean, I can't wait for a brownout or a blackout, and of course we're going to blame them first. And but that's when you get their attention. I mean, the bottom line on TV campaign, from our perspective, anyway, we don't have the money. But I don't know if anybody nationally does or not. That's.
Hey, Chris, give me 1 second to comment on something Bill said there. So you'll know, not to run off and scare people about brownouts and blackouts. We're very concerned about it. We are currently spending billions of dollars trying to improve our transmission system, including right here in the Kanawha Valley, to take up the slack that these closed plants are going to bring. But every one of the plants that ended their run at midnight on May 31st that belonged to us ran this past winter. Every one of them. Every unit ran. And we have done modeling that indicates there are at least 1,000 points in PJM alone where there are thermal overload problems that will be created. They're solvable, but they are going to cost billions of dollars in transmission projects or new power plant construction to overcome.
Some of you guys don't need to work so hard, just let it happen.
Well, again, back to my opening comments, we understand the sentiment there, but we're not going to get fined or get put in prison if we can avoid it. Well, I mean, I'll put it in perspective.
Mark,
None of us.
Mark, would you repeat that question or
Uh,
comment?
The question was, how does this translate into actual percentage chances of brownouts and blackouts? Just so I'm plain, we have another cold winter like we've had the last 2 winters. We believe there will be brownouts and blackouts in the PJM footprint.
Did they specify a number? Is it 5,000 homes, 500,000?
Oh, no, it'll be much more, what happened, the most recent example goes back to 2003, totally unrelated to the power plant closings, but the blackout that affected New York and much of the Northeast back in 2003, there was 50 million customers impacted. That's because a 345,000 volt line that's on First Energy system sagged down into a tree. So that's how tenuous it can be. There's a potential for widespread cascading incidents to occur. They may not. I don't know what the winter weather is going to be this year, but on the 2014 polar vortex, PJM was within 600 megawatts of not having enough energy. 600 megawatts. What was it we just said? For AEP alone, we're closing 5,600 megawatts.
We did that with New York once.
Well, don't we wish? But that's the laws of physics are what they are, and the weakest point is what'll go first.
Other questions? Questions for Rupee? Allow me to thank our panelists for joining us. How about a round of applause?
We appreciate it.